I never thought lending a hand door in this case. Leaving my keys in the wrong place would turn into one of the most frustrating chapters of my life. It all started with a simple Saturday morning. Birds were chirping, coffee was hot, and my Mustang, my pride and joy, was freshly waxed, gleaming in the driveway. But by the afternoon, everything changed. Because the spoiled son of our HOA president thought my car was just another toy he could mess around with. And the worst part? He didn't even ask. Now, let me give you some quick context. Our HOA president, Mr. Halverson, acts like he runs the whole neighborhood like a kingdom, and his teenage son, Zach, is basically the prince. This kid's been coddled his whole life, always acting like the rules don't apply to him. Most of the neighbors just keep their heads down to avoid drama. I usually did too, till Zach decided my Mustang was his for the taking. He didn't steal it in the classic sense. I'd left the keys inside the house door unlocked while helping a neighbor move some stuff. Within minutes, Zach somehow found his way in, grabbed the keys, and drove off, no permission. No, nothing. The next time I saw my car, it was wrecked. Front bumper crushed, side panel dented, rims scratched. And when I confronted him, he just smirked and said, "It's just a car, man, chill." That's when things really escalated. I thought his dad would at least do the right thing. I mean, he's always preaching about community values at HOA meetings, right? But what happened next? It shocked everyone on the block and made me realize just how far people will go to protect their own. Stick around, because this story is just getting started. Now, here's where things started getting weird. After Zach crashed my Mustang and brushed it off like it was no big deal, I went straight to his dad. Mr. Halverson was out front watering his perfect little hedges when I pulled up, still shaken and angry. I explained what happened, how Zach took my car without permission and completely wrecked it. At first, he acted surprised, but that didn't last long. His whole tone shifted, like he already knew but didn't care. He gave me that tight, fake smile he always uses at HOA meetings and said something like, "Boys will be boys. I'm sure it's not as bad as you're saying." That's when I realized I wasn't just dealing with a kid who didn't respect boundaries. I was up against a father who thought his family was untouchable. I tried to stay calm, but inside, I was boiling. My Mustang isn't just a car, it's something I've poured time, money, and care into for years. Seeing it mangled like that, and then being told to just brush it off, it felt like being slapped in the face. I asked if they planned to cover the damage, as at least go through insurance or offer some kind of payment. That's when Mr. Halverson's smile disappeared. He crossed his arms and said, "There's no proof Zach took it. Maybe someone else crashed it, and you're just looking to blame my son." I was stunned. He flipped the story completely, as if I was the one causing problems. From that moment, I knew this wasn't going to be simple. I wasn't just trying to get my car fixed anymore. I was standing up to a family that used their HOA status like armor. And the deeper I looked into it, the more I realized this wasn't the first time they'd done something shady around here. After that conversation with Mr. Halverson, realized I wasn't just dealing with a car problem, I was dealing with a power game. The man had control over the entire neighborhood through the HOA, and it was clear he used that influence to shield his family from any kind of accountability. Word started to spread about what happened to my Mustang, but instead of sympathy, I got whispers. Some neighbors warned me quietly, "Just drop it. People who go against him, it never ends well." That only made me more curious. I started talking to folks I normally just waved at. One older couple, the Sandersons, told me about how they got fined for painting their mailbox the wrong shade of blue, while Zach had been throwing wild parties and parking his dirt bike on the lawn for weeks without a single warning. Another neighbor down the block said Halverson once got someone's dog banned from the community just because it barked near his house. It was clear The HOA wasn't being run fairly. The rules only applied when it suited the president and his family. Meanwhile, Zach kept strutting around like nothing happened. I even caught him bragging to his friends in the cul-de-sac, laughing about that guy crying over his busted Mustang. That's when something strange happened. I found a note taped to my door late one night. It was anonymous, just a folded piece of paper with a message that read, "You're not the only one he's messed with. Be careful." No signature. No return address. Just that now I wasn't just angry, I was on edge. Someone else out there had been through something similar. And if Halverson had enemies hiding in the shadows, maybe it was time to find out exactly how deep this rabbit hole went. Because one thing was clear, this wasn't just about a car anymore. From the moment I found that mysterious note, everything felt different. I started watching the neighborhood more closely, noticing things I'd never paid attention to before: the way people flinched when Mr. Halverson walked by, the quick glances exchanged when his son rolled past on his bike. It was like a silent tension hung in the air, waiting to explode. I knew I had to be careful, but I couldn't just back down, not when my Mustang was wrecked and no one was willing to step up and take responsibility. I tried again to reach out to Mr. Halverson, hoping to settle this quietly, but every attempt was met with cold shoulders and vague excuses. Meanwhile, Zach seemed to be getting more reckless, driving around the neighborhood like he owned the streets, daring anyone to challenge him. One afternoon, I caught him speeding past my house, almost clipping the mailbox. It felt personal, as if he was trying to send a message. At the same time, the anonymous warning stuck with me. Who else was tangled in this mess? I started digging deeper, talking to neighbors who had stayed silent for years. Some shared stories of unfair fines, threats, and intimidation. Others hinted at disputes that mysteriously disappeared from HOA records. The more I learned, the clearer it became that Mr. Halverson's grip on the community was tighter than anyone wanted to admit. Then came the night I heard the crash. A loud bang echoed down the street, and I rushed outside to see Zach's bike lying on its side and the front of a neighbor's fence smashed. Zach stood nearby, furious but unhurt, yelling at someone I couldn't see. The whole neighborhood seemed to hold its breath. That moment felt like the breaking point. Everyone was waiting to see what would happen next, whether the HOA president's son would finally face consequences, or if this tangled web of power and protection would swallow me whole. The tension was unbearable, and I knew the next move could change everything. Just when I thought things couldn't get any worse, a new twist hit me like a storm. The day after Zach's reckless crash into the neighbor's fence, I got a call from the insurance company. My claim on the Mustang was denied. Apparently, because I had left the keys unattended, they said I was partly responsible for the damage. That was a punch in the gut. Not only was Zach refusing to pay, but now I was being blamed for the whole mess. But that wasn't all. The same afternoon, I received an unexpected visit from a local police officer. At first, I thought maybe they were here to take a report or follow up on the crash. Instead, the officer handed me a citation for trespassing. It turned out Zach had accused me of being on his family's private property without permission. It was ridiculous, but with the HOA president pulling strings, I couldn't be sure what would happen next. The whole situation was spiraling out of control. Neighbors started avoiding me, fearing the fallout from crossing the Halverson family. Even some of the friends I'd confided in suddenly went quiet. The community that once felt like home was turning into a place filled with whispers and sideways glances. And then I caught wind of something even more shocking. A few weeks ago, someone spotted Zach at a local junkyard, trying to sell parts for my Mustang, the same parts that should have been smashed beyond repair. Why would he do that unless he was trying to cover his tracks or make a quick buck? Realized this was no longer just about a damaged car or a spoiled kid's mistake. This was about a family willing to go to any lengths to protect their name and, A neighborhood caught in the middle. The stakes had never been higher, and I was running out of options. What would I do next? That's where things get really complicated. I knew I couldn't let things slide any longer. The insurance denial, the trespassing charge, Zach selling parts from my Mustang knit, all pointed to one thing. They were trying to bury the truth. So I started gathering evidence. I recorded conversations, took pictures of the wrecked car, and even managed to get a neighbor to discreetly film Zach riding the bike recklessly. When I finally confronted Mr. Halverson again, this time I was ready. I laid out everything: the crashed Mustang, Zach's reckless behavior, the insurance claim denial, and the suspicious sale of parts. I told him I'd be forced to take legal action if they didn't make things right. For a moment, he looked cornered, but then something unexpected happened. Instead of doubling down on denial, he softened. Maybe it was the pressure, or maybe he realized I wasn't backing down. He agreed to cover the repairs and clear my name, but there was a catch. Just as I was about to breathe a sigh of relief, Zach stormed into the conversation, furious. He admitted he'd been reckless, but refused to apologize. Then he dropped a bombshell. He wasn't acting alone. There were others in the neighborhood who had been covering for his family's misdeeds, and they weren't happy about me stirring things up. That revelation turned everything upside down. It wasn't just about one spoiled kid anymore. There was a whole network protecting the status quo, and my fight for justice was bigger than I thought. The last thing I saw before walking away was Zach's cold smirk, like he was daring me to keep digging. The neighborhood might look peaceful on the surface, but beneath it was a storm far from over. And me? I was right in the middle of it. After that intense confrontation, things slowly began to shift. Mr. Halverson followed through on his promise. My Mustang was repaired, and the insurance claim was finally approved. It wasn't perfect, and the damage left a mark on the car, but it was enough to feel like justice had been served. Zach, on the other hand, stayed distant. His usual arrogance tempered by the fact that his actions now had consequences he couldn't avoid. The neighborhood also started to change. Some neighbors who had been too afraid to speak up before began sharing their own stories. Together, we pushed for more transparency in the HOA, demanding fair treatment for everyone, not just the president's family. It wasn't easy. Old habits die hard, but bit by bit, the balance of power started to even out. What I learned through all of this is that standing up for what's right can be messy and uncomfortable, especially when it means challenging people who seem untouchable. But silence only lets unfairness grow. My Mustang wasn't just a car anymore. It became a symbol of pushing back against privilege and protecting what matters, even though the situation with Zach and his family is far from perfect. The whole experience taught me the importance of community and courage. No matter how spoiled or powerful someone seems, respect and responsibility have to come first. Thanks for sticking with me through this story. If you've ever faced a situation where someone took what was yours and refused to make it right, you know how frustrating that can be. Sometimes the hardest battles bring the most important lessons. I hope sharing this helps you feel less alone and maybe even inspires you to stand your ground when it counts most. The road ahead isn't always smooth, but at least now I know I'm not driving it alone.